Hi there, Maria and Maya. Thank you very much for jumping in. I don't know if it was user error or it's probably user error. I'd like to blame it on technology though. So thank you very much for jumping in with no warning and taking over my slot. So I just want to speak. Let's see, right. I'd like to spend the next 10 minutes or so just talking about the acid test now for purpose-led influencer marketing. I think, you know, that it's easy to eulogize about the importance of putting purpose ahead of profit when you're living your best life during the good times. It's another thing altogether to stick to those ideals when the future of the economy is so uncertain. And so, you know, a lot of what I want to talk about in the next few minutes is really just echoing what Maya has said about the importance of community and the importance of brand equity, really. It's about the importance of keeping purpose at the heart of our influencer marketing. Yes, from a moral perspective, but also from a commercial imperative as well. So no doubt later, Ben and Mary and Jane will explain about the work that their companies are doing with creators and the World Health Organization to build awareness around social distancing. Although, as Maya points out, it's about physical distancing, not social distancing. That's a great distinction, I think. And but I'm sure that Mary, Jane, and Ben will be talking about the work they're doing with WHO, and Maya as well, who's just signed up with the United Nations. But of course, they're not the only organisations that are working with influencers to share positive stories and to share important messaging around what the community can do to help themselves in this pandemic time. So no doubt everybody's seen Joe Wicks. He's now become, I'm a parent of two, he's become a fabric of our family life now with his morning get fit routine workouts. But also, you know, there are many other influencers, other creators. Dr. Ranj Singh here, former children's BBC presenter, former Strictly Come Dancing contestant, a London hospital doctor, and he regularly talks to his community on Instagram and on Twitter about the pandemic, about the health situation, and he's a good translator. He can translate some of the concerns and the technical jargon into easily consumed bite-sized chunks that his audience will understand. Mr. Beast there, up top left, he's got 23.4 million subscribers on YouTube, and he's just in the last couple of days done $1 million food donation to US food banks. So and again, you know, there are lots of other influencers. There's Dr. Mike, the American doctor, sort of a contemporary to Dr. Ranj, who does the same sort of things Dr. Ranj is doing, but from a US point of view. So he's also an explainer. He's sharing in sort of everyday language what people should know about the pandemic and how they can protect themselves and their loved ones and community at large. But he's also taking some positive direct action. And he personally went and bought $25,000 worth of face masks and distributed those to US hospitals. And so so you know, and again, as was Maya has pointed out, because I could hear but I couldn't interact a bit earlier. As consumers in this time of crisis, we're turning more than ever to our favorite creators on social media, and we're turning to those influencers who add value to our lives, and they produce content that is interesting, or it's informative, or it's entertaining, or it's a combination of both. But of all of these examples I've shown, you know, they're putting their community at the heart of what they're doing. They're putting, you know, it's very community centric. And again, you know, it's not just creators that are doing that. You know, now is a time for action. You know, deeds, not words. And we're seeing that as individual influencers are placing community and their values at the heart of their content, so are we seeing some big brands doing the same. And Burberry announced a couple of days ago that it's now making medical face masks and gowns. Louis Vuitton, Moet Hennessy is making hand sanitizer. Marriott International, the CEO of Marriott, he said that he won't be taking a salary throughout the whole of 2020, and he's halved his executive team's remuneration. And by doing this, he's showing the company's embeddedness with the employees and the societies in which they operate. So it's a time, it's a time for community, and it's a time for actions, not just saying all the wonderful things we're going to do. It's a time for actually doing those things.
I really want it to look like that. So.
And so now I've drawn this small sort of graphic here, and you can see that the top line there's the time, and then going down the side it's the impact. And at the moment we're in this crisis bit, and we don't know yet either the global impact or the duration of this pandemic. We're hoping very much, you can see in the middle of your screen, we're hoping that it's going to be a V-shaped initial shock, then a quick correction, but we don't know. And it could be a U-shape impact and time, or the worst case scenario, it could be sort of this bathtub where we go in, and sadly it might sort of nudge into a depression. And as many organizations are soon or at this time, they're sort of fighting for their survival. Many are many are in crisis mode, and sales and marketing budgets are often, I think, the first sacrifice to be made up. And our companies are looking, so some of them have just shut down, put the shutters down on sales and marketing budgets. Others are reversing, taking away from the purpose marketing, and they're moving purely onto sales-based activations in a bid for organizational survival. Yet more companies will want to continue with their sales and marketing drive, and there's a commercial imperative to keeping these wheels of business turning. And they'll also be, but at the same time, these brands are concerned not to appear tin-eared or insensitive or opportunistic. And I think this is a good time for really to consider influencer marketing. I'm not trying to say we should benefit from this pandemic, this terrible crisis, but influencer marketing offers help here. Influencers are adept at creating compelling content which sparks conversation, strengthens connections, nurtures community, and converts into action. They know what their community likes, and they know what their community doesn't care for. And these influencers they're the community guardians, and they'll be able to tell a brand immediately whether the messaging chimes with their audience or it fails the smell test. So all of these examples of activation we've seen, it's about community first. But that's not to say that we can't be thinking about the commerciality, about continuing with activations. And as Maya said earlier, it's about the quality of the storytelling, and but both in production, but also the meaning behind that. And we'll come on to a little bit about the importance of keeping the sort of the brand equity lights on throughout this uncertain times. I think this is no PowerPoint should be bereft of a slide with some stats on. And here, here is a survey on the top one. 73% say that the way companies act during this crisis will affect future purchase decisions. This was a GfK poll just in the last 10 days, so very recent, 73%. A poll from last year says that 76% expect brands to contribute to their way of life and well-being. And that was from a survey conducted last year in 2019 by Havas. And here 93% say that Gen Z say that if a company makes a commitment, it should stand by its commitment. So again, it's about deeds, not just words. And when, lots of brands are very good at having mission statements and value statements on their website. Now is the time to live up to those. And influencers are a way of humanizing the brands and translating that brand vision, that brand purpose into a story that consumers and society at large can understand. Here, former Australian Prime Minister John Howard once said, "You can't fatten a pig on market day," and it's a great line, and it's something it's a line that stuck with me for a long while. And this really kind of this echoes Maya's point earlier, that we need to keep the lights on in terms of brand equity. We need to keep on brands need to be front of mind and reminding customers and society about the values that their brands instill. And that's why we've seen Marriott doing these things, and Louis Vuitton putting actions first, and Zara. They're whether it's Uber Eats, there's so many. They're actually not just saying what we're going to do, they're actually doing what they're going to do. So they're walking the talk, if you like. But in terms of John Howard's line, "You can't fatten a pig on market day," the implication for brands is that they need to stay relevant, they need to stay top of mind. It's understandable that in this uncertain times that brands want to cut budgets or remove budgets. Or divert budgets into pure sales activations. But purpose helps establish and reinforce a real meaningful connection between a brand and a consumer. And influencer marketing helps reinforce this bond, because people buy people stories. They don't really buy brand stories, they buy people stories. Mark Ritson, PhD in marketing, has been writing for Marketing Week for 2 decades now. He's been doing some research into past recessions and past depressions, and the data shows that brands that maintain an investment in their own brands and their brand equity, in the values and the purpose behind them, what they stand for, that they can help customers and society at large. And when we come out of this uncertainty, when we come out of this financial uncertainty, as well as health uncertainty, the data shows that there's a 30 to 40% incremental growth in the first couple of years post-recession for these companies that have kept the lights on. I wanted to kind of close on the mainstream media as well. So we've talked about influencers putting community at the heart of everything they do. We've talked about brands acting and not just saying, but there is a positivity towards influencer marketing. And here the top article, "Have we reached peak influencer?" was written in the Financial Times and it was published on the 31st of December. And it's quite a damning piece that really is saying that influencer marketing is a fad. Fast forward 1 quarter to last week, and there's another story, again by the same journalist, Hannah Murphy, and it's a very different story about influencer marketing and how it's a bit of a naff headline, but how influencers are rallying around good causes, and they're sort of mobilizing their community, and they're offering good advice, but also entertainment and a distraction as well. So maybe there is a kind of a shift towards a bit of a positivity in terms of influencer marketing, at least from the mainstream media. That is me. I've tried to keep it down to 10, 11 minutes, but Maria, do you have any questions or anything?
Oh, that was brilliant. Thank you very much. I think you touched on some fantastic points here, and actually the community coming together, I think we're going to come back to that time and time again as we all pull together. And great stats now. When we look at the recession, we see those 3 visuals you've given us, and I'm quite sure there's not a single person that's hoping and praying for the V or at worst a U. So let's just hold that thought together. And actually I have one question that's come in from Philip Brown. And he's, you've already touched on quite a bit of it. It's thoughts on Endelman's Trust Barometer update released yesterday, saying 65% of consumers have noted that how a brand responds to the crisis will have a huge impact on their likelihood to purchase that brand in the future, which you've covered. But he moves on to say, and how does this align with a decrease in advertising spend? Which, this is the big question I think we're all asking ourselves.
You cut off right at the question. How does that relate to the? Say that again, Maria.
So how does this align with a decrease in advertising spend? Which is the question we're all asking ourselves.
Well, yes, and it's a difficult. And again, when I said about lots of brands want to carry keep the wheels of commerce moving, but they don't want to make a misstep. I was quite conscious in this in this 10-minute slot not to do the same. I think I didn't see the Edelman thing from yesterday, but I have seen that they did a snap about 2 weeks ago, a smaller sample than they usually do with their trust barometer, and they were saying that influencers and subject matter experts are resonating. I think it is going to be a reality that marketing and advertising budgets decrease or wither. There's an opportunity for influencer marketing, though, to get a bigger slice, I think, of that diminished budget.
I think you're right.
And I think because there are a few reasons. I think because influencers are adept at humanizing a brand. They're adept. We don't buy. It's such a hackneyed thing, but we don't buy from brands. We buy from people. We buy stories. And it's people that we can relate to. So so I think if the overall cake is getting smaller, our slice of the cake at influencer marketing hopefully will get larger. Also, we're a nimble industry. We're able to, it's still small enough to be able to test and learn, to try out, to see what works, what doesn't work, to recalibrate so that we're eliminating the waste and just concentrating on what works, and nudging our KPIs, incrementally. And we can do that at a both faster at a lower price point than some of the other traditional advertising mediums.
I think spot on.